Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Brass on Tap episode number 11. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We've got a few people in here with us. Please share. Please get the word out. This is going to be a great stream tonight. Don't forget, ask questions. This is all about you learning, you gathering the information that you can get, so you can use this as your inspiration and learn, get better, soak it up like a sponge. A little bit of housekeeping as always. If you missed the previous 10 episodes, they are all on YouTube. Please head over to the playlist there and check them all out. There's some incredible people. This is the last stream of this year, 2020. What a year we've had. Let's hope 2021 is better. I couldn't have gone out on a better note with my next guest. So honestly, go check the videos out over the next time between now and probably mid-January when I restart, when everyone has come back from their breaks away, hopefully being able to see family. I'll be sharing the previous 10 episodes randomly over this time, so hopefully you guys might be able to check it out. If not, check it out in your own time. And if you're rewatching, thanks so much for coming back. But for now, let's get on with it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, what else can I say about my guest? I mean, you've already seen who it is. He honestly does not need any introduction, but hey, let's just have a little bit let's just say about 9 years ago on YouTube, little guy named Chicken Tico came on and took the world by storm. His playing was incredible. He was playing stuff that was well beyond his years. People were even comparing him to some of the greats, and rightfully so. He's gone on to have an incredible career. We won't get into it right now, but to all you people out there that may not know Louis Dowdeswell, yeah, here is just a little bit that he released earlier this year.
Two.
Ladies and gentlemen, Louis Dowdeswell. Honestly, what a player, what a man. Just finishing on a double D. I mean, who wouldn't? If you got it in your bag, why not? What can I say? The man is a genius. He's one of the most in-demand trumpet players around the world at the moment. He's figured it all out, and I can't wait to get him on. So let's not leave it any longer. Louis Dowdeswell, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Thanks
Nice
for
to
having
see
me.
you. Well, thanks so much for joining us on our Christmas stream, last one for the year. It's
I've got to say, I'm jealous of your Christmas lights. I think that's definitely a touch. I haven't got any in here yet, you know. So
it's all right. Yeah. Anyway, as I start my streams, we start on the unfortunate year of the COVID year, 2020. Just explaining to a lot of people out there that are finding a bit of hardship. I've always started my streams just to see how your year has been, just so people can sort of compare it to how they've been. So how has this year actually been for you?
Oh, it's been a pretty interesting year. I've kind of tried to lay some foundations down for the future, both musically and personally, which is cool. I bought a house. I've been working on it. I've been skilling up in other areas. I mean, it's kind of weird. It feels almost a little bit like if you were to take the studying out of studying, or like the studying lifestyle. It's kind of like that time again where you probably never get this time ever again.
No.
So you can look at it two ways. You can either look at it kind of like, oh, all my gigs are gone, I'm going to be upset about it, or you can kind of look at, you know, the positives in having time. I'm sure a lot of people have had opportunities to see their family more and spend more time with them, because I know that's something that can be quite difficult as musicians, particularly when our work life sort of usually starts when everyone else is getting home from school or from their other jobs. So not that I've had that effect on me so much, but I can sort of see the positives in this year in a weird way. I don't know. I wonder whether we'll be looking at like pre-COVID times as kind of like the good old days type thing, which
Maybe.
Also makes me feel happy to have actually experienced some of them, because I haven't been around for that long.
Yeah.
And it would be just interesting if things don't go back to the way they were, to be able to reminisce on things, you know, and look back at what it was like before then. I feel as though like the industry is going to change a lot. Maybe not directly because of COVID, but indirectly. You know, everyone is looking for opportunities left, right, and centre to kind of cut costs, etc. You know, make things harder for people like me and you, Ben. But they at the same time, like, this is a perfectly good excuse for them to do so. So that's kind of more of my concern. But then again, if that's the way that things have got to be, that's where they've got to be. But like, actually, with regards to this year, yeah, I've had a nice time. Really,
Yeah.
I can't really complain.
Fair one. I mean, you've got you've still done an amazing thing. Obviously, that film that we just played, that video you just played, you did through COVID times as well, and you know, what a production! It was incredible.
Oh, thank you, mate.
I do believe you're right in that. I don't think the world will ever be the same, because safety has to be the utmost protocol, I think, around the world now at the moment. But as you said, I hope they don't cut costs. Like, music is a powerful thing, and I think they'll realize once music starts coming back that we definitely need more of it, and hopefully things will slowly start getting back to it. But yeah, anyway, let's go back to a little bit of your beginnings, if possible. You know, for the people out there, the rare people that don't actually know you. 9 years ago, I discovered you on YouTube. Well, I didn't really discover you; it was being shared about 1 million times. Who's this kid playing Wayne Bergeron, pretty much, and Maynard and all this, and you know, it was incredible. Like, if you get a chance, people, go to Louis Dowdeswell's YouTube page and have a look at those old videos. He's so young. I mean,
thin.
Well, you're still thin. What are you talking about? You know, it's all that ale. You know, everyone likes ale.
No, that joint lockdown, I tell you. Oh,
yeah, hey, nothing wrong with that. But yeah. So, but if you compared yourself then to now, like, your experience, I mean, I've heard that you've when you first started playing, because you went through Purcell, didn't you? Is it Purcell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I went to Wells Cathedral School as well. Both
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. What what a great one.
Oh, very fortunate indeed.
Yeah, and you went through with James Copus as well, he's another one taking the world by storm. So that's
He's
yeah,
he's pretty ridiculous.
yeah.
Is James.
Anyone that was actually following you, you used to do these trumpet cams, and where you stick the phone on your stands, and
Absolutely,
the two of yous on
absolutely.
that. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, right. I remember there was a period of time, like maybe well, around that time when it was kind of a bit of a novelty to have
Yeah,
a camera on your phone. Cameras on phones have been around for a while at that point, but it was still kind of like, put you with your mate, you're playing, put the camera on, see what happens, and
yeah,
then if something works out, get all excited about it and post it on the internet. It's a little different nowadays because everyone posts everything on the internet every day, every second, and
yeah,
and if you don't do it, it's weird,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it was maybe a bit different back then. So but yeah, I don't know.
So how do
I don't know.
you like? For me, I'm quite a bit older than you. I think about 10 years. I think I've got on you. So I was of the period where computers started taking off. I was traveling on
Yeah.
cruise ships when Facebook and YouTube and everything sort of took off.
Yeah.
So I didn't really see the benefit of that until I landed back on land again and actually went, oh, what's this thing going on? So for you obviously discovered it, and for me, like, it must have made the world a smaller place for you, and being able to, if you know what I mean, if it, like, for me, where if I wanted to see someone, I would have had to travel to go see him at concerts. I used to travel to Sydney to watch people in the basement, and stuff like that, from my hometown in Brisbane. So it's like, but now if I just clicked on YouTube, it's like, oh, there's Bobby Shoe, or there's Wayne, or so, like, hey, so do you recommend YouTube for getting yourself out there? Because you exposed yourself a lot when you put yourself up there. So do you recommend?
Yeah. There's a lot to say about that. First off, let's talk about YouTube as like a resource, or like just the internet as a resource itself. I was fortunate enough, I guess, to be born at a time where I remember both pre-internet, as in, of course, internet's been around since about 1987, something like that. But it wasn't readily available, and particularly not at speeds that we see today, and we'll see in the future, or hopefully. I remember time before it, when we had dial-up, and then I remember time after it. So I've seen the world in two different ways. I mean, I can't imagine what it must have been like to only have access to the information that is available on your high street, right? That's literally what people had access to if they didn't go somewhere else. And by the way, that's been like that since time began.
Exactly.
And so it's only really very recently that we've been able to do this. And when you were saying that has it made the world smaller for you? Yeah, because when I was a kid and I heard the Gordon Goodwin Big Fat Band for the first time, I never expected that I would even see that band. Like, because like Los Angeles sounds like another planet, it doesn't, compared to like Somerset, which is where I was at the time.
That's pretty good accent, by the way.
Yes, but the only word I can say in the Somerset accent.
Harvester.
Yeah, or his head, which is where I'm from. Proper pirate land. I remember thinking at the time, like, it's impossible, and then there was an opportunity to send Wayne Bergeron a message, and like, this is the other thing that we get onto regarding social media, maybe more so than YouTube, but still similarly related. It seems a bit weird to me that I can literally send a message to anyone that is on that platform in the world, which I'm not suggesting for a second that that everyone in the world is on those platforms, but if I wanted to, I could send a message to anybody, and they could either reply to it or not, right? And this is like a very weird thing because the world has never dealt with this before.
No.
Back in the day, I wouldn't be able to send a message to my hero and expect to get a response. Now it's like everyone just does it because it's like it seems the obvious thing to do if you want to talk to somebody like that. So when you say the world got smaller, I see what you mean. It probably did, because suddenly the planet of Los Angeles was accessible
It's an
to
email
me,
away. Yeah.
because I can send a message to somebody at 14 years old, which seems like crazy when you actually sit down and think about it. But that's where we are now, and that's the world we live in. And I can't say it didn't help me. It did. But it also relies on the other person on the end of the line being, having enough time and wanting to participate and helping, if you see what I mean. And then when it comes down to YouTube itself, like actually putting yourself out there, I remember when I recorded I think the first video I put on YouTube that's worth anything was the Oh Holy Night video where I cut the plane. And that's the first double high D I ever played. So I got lucky as hell. Yeah, but this is the thing: if you sit in your room for enough hours,
it will happen
with the film on. Yeah, and it happens. You just go, cool, I got it.
Yeah, post.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think I sent it to a couple of different people, and they said, oh, you should put that on Facebook and YouTube. And at the time, not many people were really doing that. There was the odd sort of like double C YouTube video.
Yeah.
But nothing else really. And so I think I then just put more and more stuff up because it just felt right. And then I think I had about 9,000 subscribers, and I sort of didn't do any more. I went through college and went through school and college, and then we started the new project that started in 2015, where things blew up a little bit faster. But it's funny as well, like being from this YouTube generation and spending a lot of time on YouTube, actually using it as a consumer.
Yeah.
I see my following as maybe quite large for a Trumpet following, but like in the scheme of things, it's still a small channel. And I think that the difficulty that people have doing the sort of stuff that I do is that people tend to gain followers by momentum. It's all about momentum on YouTube. It's all about keeping your uploads consistent, while also being like, not losing quality. So effectively, don't increase your quantity if it's going to reduce your quality. But consistency is key. If you told someone or a fan that there's going to be new content every week, and you delivered it, expect to get more subscribers, because you're going to keep people, like, look at it like a TV channel. It's the same thing. They're expecting it, and then they get it. They know that they can spend their Wednesday night watching that video, and that's great for them as a consumer. But if you don't do that, it's very difficult to grow. So I mean, if anyone is thinking about starting a YouTube channel, and I don't live by this, by the way, I find social media very difficult to keep up with. Also, I'm so worried about dropping in quality. If my new thing is worse than the last one I put out, like, what's the point in putting it out? In my mind, it's not the same for everyone, but you can stay within an area of quality. But for me, I've got to keep pushing up, otherwise I don't really see the point in doing it anyway, because it's a lot of work for very little financial gain. But that's just what it is. And having said that, I might not be on this podcast today. I might not have done a few solo gigs and things like that if I hadn't done all that other stuff. And I'm sure there would be far fewer people in the trumpet and brass world that would know about me too. So it has its positives. I also get to listen to and play with like some of the best musicians in the world doing it, because people seem to want to be involved. And so that's also another great thing. But I would recommend YouTube as both a consumer thing and also as a content creator thing. If you want to get something started, then try upload regularly, or consistently. Even if it's once a month, is better than sporadic random videos. Learn from my mistakes on that one.
That's brilliant. Yeah, so obviously a massive thing to take away from that is quality over quantity, and that you can't explain that any better than that, because the amount of times you see things coming out, and I've even had chats with, I think it was Brian Davis on this podcast, and he just went,
Yeah.
he's actually witnessed people giving bad information, and that's just because they're trying to pump it out, and it's just, yeah. And he said, so just be careful. But obviously yourself, like you had, correct me if I'm wrong, you had two great teachers when you were younger, Paul Denegri and Steve Waterman. Is that correct?
Yes, I guess you could say like that. I had quite a few when I was a kid. I had while I was at Wales Cathedral School, I was taught by Paul Denegri, Simon Jones, and when I went to Purcell, I studied with Steve Waterman. Yes, and Mike Lovatt.
Oh wow! Yes.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a.
I started lessons with Mike when I was 15 as well. So
oh wow!
Yeah, it was cool. I used to travel up from Wells to see him for lessons up to Berkhamsted, which was a good old sort of 4-hour trip.
I mean, I'm sure you can say it as much as me, but it's definitely worth it. I've definitely had a few lessons of him as well. So, one thing I wanted to get into, is it Reinhardt? You follow the Reinhardt method, or you know his book, so you know his theory. And
yeah, I haven't read the whole encyclopedia. I have it here, but I like that thinking more than I do other things.
Yeah,
if you will.
Yeah, we won't dive too much into it. But in the end, I did hear previously on a previous podcast. I'm a bit of a trumpet geek. It happens. That you did go through. I've been through 3 embouchure changes. And you said you've been through an embouchure change as well, but you did it on your own, is what you were stating. You were saying that you were quite downstream, and that you actually, from watching Wayne, you actually sort of analysed his playing to a degree, which changed your chops. Now, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that would be scared of changing their embouchure, especially if there's guys out there that can play high. Now, you could play high, couldn't you, on your old embouchure, but you just went, hang on a minute, something's different.
Yeah, I think that the so-called embouchure change that you're referring to would have more likely have been like a subtle change that I made when I moved to high compression equipment.
Oh, okay, got you.
But yes, it definitely is an embouchure change. One thing I'd say on embouchure changes is that if your embouchure isn't changing all the time, then that's weird, right? I mean,
yeah, because we're always improving. We're always finding better ways of doing it.
We're also gaining weight, losing weight, getting older, jaws changing, particularly all the way up to my age. I think I stop growing next year. You know what I mean? I think that's pretty much how it goes. I think you broaden out, you get bigger, your jaw gets bigger, your head gets like markedly bigger between the ages of 18 and 28. You can see it in the old videos of me 9 years ago. And if someone's saying my face is the same back then, it isn't. I've had to go through like a journey of small adjustments I had to make just to keep things in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
And that is requiring constant change and understanding of what's going on. When people have like chops, darkouts, it's usually because something has changed quickly and they haven't figured out a way of getting around that problem.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to play like a 1 1/4 C mouthpiece, really big thing, and when I changed to high compression gear, I found that I could play in the upper register if I pull my top lip down, which I didn't used to do on that mouthpiece because it was so big, you just didn't need to. And so that's sort of the way that I looked at it. And also, like, for anyone that is interested in playing high compression, shallower gear, if you will, then you will have to make an adjustment because it's fundamentally different when your chops are inside the cup to when you're trying to pull them out of the cup.
Yeah.
So I won't go into a huge amount of detail there, but like everyone that moves onto smaller gear from bigger gear is going to have to make quite a big adjustment. Otherwise, the chops are just simply going to touch the bottom of the cup.
Yeah.
And that happens so much. Like people think that these small mouthpieces are cheater mouthpieces. you give it to them, and then they can't even make a sound on it, or they can't get the lips to vibrate properly because too much of them is in it. The other problem happens is if you're used to playing small high compression gear, and then you go to a bigger mouthpiece, you actually struggle to get compression.
Yeah.
Because you're relying on your gear too much, you're not relying on your aperture.
Yeah.
So when we play on small equipment, we have to open our aperture up, pull our chops out of the mouthpiece, so that there's still space in the mouthpiece. But because the floor of the mouthpiece, the bottom of it, is closer to us, you get a lot more support. With regards to that compression. So, I'd say that was when I made like an embouchure change, but I sort of forced it on myself because I said I want to play small equipment because my favorite players do. And so I just found like this hilarious thing, which I just happen to have there. I mean, I don't even know what that is, but I found that in my auntie's.
I don't think not many people know what that is.
No, I've got no ideas, no markings on it whatsoever. Brilliant. It's absolutely awful. But I used to play classical music and everything on that, and I went from my 1/4 to that, and still played all of the straight stuff on it. But I think it was a good bridge mouthpiece for me to get me onto the Marcinkiewicz 1.25 embouchure, which Tom Walsh put me onto. But it's just really interesting how equipment will dictate to you how you play. I feel as though like a lot of people say with equipment, I know we weren't talking necessarily about equipment, but it is in relation, like that you should be playing equipment that just suits you straight away. I think it's a little different when you're developing because it's going to be, you need to experiment before you settle on something. And so that was what I was dealing with. And I'm kind of glad I got it out of the way before I was committed too heavily to something else. Which is what I think a lot of people struggle with, particularly when they get to college or even when they're a bit older and they want to do something else with their playing and they just can't because the equipment isn't efficient enough for what they want. So there's a lot of people and something to be said about just getting out there and trying new things all the time. Trumpets, mouthpieces. I mean, look at Andy Greenwood, one of the finest trumpet players in London, and I don't think he'll ever find the one, judging by the way he's going. So, but I'm seeing you tomorrow. I'll see what he's got in his trumpet case.
Yeah, please do. And just remind him he sounds great on everything. So just pick one.
I will. We always tell him.
Honestly, but honestly, guys, get out there and work it out. As Louis said, it's a discovery. I mean, I know that when I get wisdom tooth, sometimes my wisdom tooth thing and my jaw swells up, but I've still got a gig to play, and I've got about an hour or so to figure out how to get that compression still in there. It's a pain in the ass, but you have to do it in our job. So that's great stuff. So you went through academy. Now, before we get into this, I did have a great question for you that I've never actually asked you, probably because I'm usually a couple of pints down by the time we see each other. But you obviously, from these YouTube videos, you gained a reputation very, very quickly. Now, I know it's probably not now because, you've got your own big band, you've traveled the world, you're actually doing it. It's probably becoming easier and easier just to get yourself out there. But when you went to like academy and stuff, when you were still younger than you are now, you're still young, but is there an expectation when you walk in that room? Like, do you ever feel that there's an expectation? Like people are like, oh, Louis here. Oh, it's definitely going to be a double D today. Or is there, you know what I mean? Like it's like, is there an expectation of you must play well every single time you walk in, or do you literally just approach it? Every gig is like, I'm just going to put down however my best thing sells today. And just takes the pressure off yourself, or do you feel that pressure because of that?
Should I give you the honest answer or the answer that I should say?
It's your choice.
I'll give you the honest answer because I think honesty is paramount.
Yeah.
When you start in the business, you don't get many chances. It's a bit like a football player.
Mm-hmm.
It's really no different. Just that you don't play for one club at a given time or one band. But when you get your opportunity, you've got to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Was I thinking about this at the time? Like overthinking? Not really, but that's kind of what you got to do. what can I? Yeah. When I started, sorry, I'm just thinking. I got to get the wording right. When I started out in the industry, the chances you get, you have to take, and if you take enough of those chances, and you walk up the stepping stones, without making too much of a fool of yourself along the way, you'll gain respect, and with respect comes things like get out of jail free cards, which is what I like to call them. And the significance to get out of jail free cards in what we do as trumpet players is quite important, because the trumpet's really hard. It's very hard to be consistent on, and it's so much that you are asked to do from day to day that differs, that mean that you have to, like, it's impossible that you're going to feel at your best every time you go to work, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And if you can hide that you're not at your best well enough that you get away with it, as in you know you're playing well enough that no one else recognizes that you're not feeling great, then it's fine. But if you do get into, if you are having a really bad day, the chops have fallen apart because they're chapped, because the weather's bad, there's so many things that can go wrong with the trumpet. It's really horrible. It's why it's so stress inducing as well as an instrument. You know, you need those get out of jail free cards, and you gain those by being respectful when you're at work. You gain them by being there early every single time, showing your face early, being a really good professional. You gain them. And so when the traffic is really bad, that one time you have a session, and you miss the start of the session, you know, the one time it happens to someone, because it will happen to you. If you have the respect, then people will forgive you. And that's really what it comes down to. Is I feel as though, like, if the expectation on me as a player is, can I do my job when I go to work? You know, that's the pressure. That's the only pressure I put on myself. And what you were saying about when I walk into a room, it depends on the circumstances. If it's my gig, and I'm the front man, then there's usually a little bit more sort of, you know, Louis here type behavior, because that's what people have come to see. But if I'm just at work, it's just work. No different to, it's just work, you know. It's like the difference between I said it on a few podcasts, it's the difference between being a tradesman, musician, and an artist. They're two very different things, and two very different demeanors you have to be. I think one thing I would say about this is quite interesting, maybe, is that, like, whether or not you're at work because they need a trumpet player, or whether they need you. And it's sort of a double-edged sword, because some people market themselves as a trumpet player, and then some people market themselves as being able to do one thing really well, even if they can do everything else very well as well. But it's this pigeonhole syndrome. You know, and so I'm not talking necessarily about myself here. I'm just, like, observing the business. But it's very easy to be pigeonholed, because if you're very good at one thing, then people tend to think that that's the only reason they need to call you. And so that's been a really big emphasis on my career anyway, is being able to show that when I go to work, whatever is put in front of me, I can play, so that I give people fewer and fewer opportunities to think that they don't need me for this. You know, like that thing, like when they we need a second trumpet player, or when we need a fourth trumpet player for this. Who should we call? Oh, we won't call X or Y because that, you know, there's such amazing lead trumpet players, for example. Why would we call those people? I've tried, I think, and a lot of the best players in the country, I think, have thought about this a little bit, is like trying their best to be really good section players and be really, really good team players. and have respect, because also like you want to work with people you like, and if there's a lead trumpet player out there that needs a fourth trumpet player, then hopefully they'll say, "Oh, can Louis come along?" There won't be any high notes. It's like, yeah, I play in the mid register. Yeah. That's fine. It's like it's my job to play the trumpet. So I don't put much pressure on myself. I actually feel less pressured if I have been called for something that they have asked me for, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if they've asked me to do it and I do my best, and what they've written is really difficult, and they'll get what they get.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I'm there sort of playing fourth trumpet in a classical environment, and the night before I've been playing and have bruised myself, they could have got any other trumpet player in London to do it. They chose me, so I've really got to nail it. So that's kind of my thought process when I go to do these things. Always try and do your best, and be a good professional, so that you get the respect of everybody, so that you work a long career. That's that's the advice I've been given as well. You know, like massive. You want to if you want to work for a long time, forgetting COVID, of course. Then you have to get the foundations right before the playing is incredibly important, but there's all the other things of being a professional. And that was kind of like a weird sort of way off topic, off topic.
It's all very relevant. But
I think it's regarding reputation. That's kind of what I would say about it anyway.
Massively. There was always something on the back of my door at home that always said, practice hard, be humble, be professional, and make friends. And that.
I wish I just said those 4 phrases rather than ramble on.
Hey, it's
basically what I said.
Yeah, but you literally hit the nail on the head for for music careers. If you trust me, these guys that come in, with the biggest egos or trying to prove something, they usually are the first ones to leave and never come back. And
they have a short career, right?
Exactly.
You hear about them and then they're gone.
Just create music with people, and like what us do, especially trumpet players are great at doing it. We literally get together and we talk shop. A lot of people go, "Oh, trumpet gigs," but we're just friendly. We're just chatting and just whatever, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, you and I were on a big band gig together, and we had a break, and we started talking about the bottlenecking and stuff like that, and and it was it just yes, we are jacks of all trades, and you more so than anyone, and that's why I put in the blurb when there's more to Louis than high notes. And there very much is, mate. Guys, get your questions in while Louis is here. Honestly, he won't be. I'm not going to keep him all night. So if you've got questions, get them in. We did have one for Steve. That's why I chuckled through that thing. He actually says, are either of you wearing trousers? I actually am, Steve. Don't know about Louis, though. But yeah.
I'm gonna keep it. I'm not going to let you know. I'm just going to sit here. And you can think I'm wearing nothing or I'm wearing trousers. We'll just leave it at that.
Louis, so the reason I asked that question about how you feel, pressure and stuff like that, if you can remember your Nigel proms, how old were you during Nigel proms?
That was 2012. So I think I was... yes, it was January 2012.
7th?
So
18? 19?
18.
18.
Yeah.
And what was the first tune? Rocky and
Rhythm, yeah.
Right, we're just gonna drop in to where Callum starts his solo and play it to the end. Enjoy this, people. Yeah, man. Now you can see
It's
what
funny how
I'm.
you say, yeah, it's not all about high notes for Louis, and then you
Well,
play
no,
that.
I know, and that probably defeated the purpose. But in the end, you were filling a spot, and that's why I brought up. How do you ever feel like an expectation like that's Cat Anderson's part you just played? Like everyone knows that, and there must have been a bit of crap, thousands of people watching, got to do this, and I'm guessing you just laid it down. And you did, and it was fucking great. So
Yeah, it's funny. I remember that very well because when I was in Nigel, I was a bit of a tyrant, and like that band at the time when I was in it was like everything to me in terms of what what I expected of people as well. Like it's a bit like a football team. It's the same thing. And I remember the night before it, I was with James Copus, all getting nervous. I had my parts, and I think we'd had a rehearsal the day before, and I ate a whole bag of dairy milk buttons, and just all excited, and then woke up the next morning with a gigantic spot on my top lip, and I've learnt from that, like,
yeah, don't need to drink all the buttons, man.
Yeah, when you've had a rehearsal all day, and you've sort of, I blew my chops in on that rehearsal, but like at the same time you weaken them ever so slightly.
Yeah.
And then you eat loads of chocolate. The weak part of your body gets attacked first.
Right.
And I've noticed that when I've sort of treated my body badly after working hard on my face. And the next day was the gig, and it wasn't that bad, but I remember being in pain during the gig, and just throwing myself at it, and the thing is, the adrenaline kicks in, so it's always fine in the end. You just go out and you just do it, and it is what it is. It will be what it will be at the end of the day. It's quite. It's cool to have a record of that.
Definitely
that
is.
little thing. I haven't heard it in probably 5 years, and I'm glad I've definitely come on since then. But it's quite cool to see that was what I could do when I was that age. I just haven't seen it so long.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We got a few questions coming in. They're flying in now, which is great. Everyone, I will try and get to your questions. If I don't, please later on just drop them in again. Obviously, with everyone questioning, I may miss them. The first one is from Matt Roberts. He says, yes, Louis, what are some of your favorite records? Cheers for the stream.
Oh, that's a nice question. My favorite record, I think, of all time is Nick Kershaw, The Works.
Oh.
It's kind of ADHD music. I love it. It's really. It was considered one of his his first flop album, Nick Kershaw's first flop album, which is hilarious because the lineup is unbelievable. And Vinny Colaiuta on drums is just ridiculous. I think that might be my favorite record of all time. It's just a bit weird. I love it. It's
I love stuff like that, like Frank Zappa back in the day. It's weird.
Oh yeah,
it's really good.
It's great, but I could put Nick Kershaw on. It reminds me of so many fun times in my childhood, like listening to it and on drives with my parents and things. But I remember it very. Yeah, I remember hearing that record for the first time, and I'm still to this day, hundreds of listens afterwards, hearing like little random bits of synths and sound effects just popping out of each ear like this, and I just think the production on it is really interesting. So yeah, that album, the version of Hello Dolly that Sinatra does with the big double C at the end is one of my favorite swing tracks. I think it's the Basie Swings Sinatra Sings album. I love all the MJ stuff.
Yeah.
My favorite. And then I really like a band called Camelot, which is a progressive. And I really like Rush as well, but it's what do they call symphonic power metal.
Yes, I like it.
It's kind of like they don't have him anymore, and I don't listen to any of the new stuff, but the old stuff, it's not that old. There's a great live album by the band in 2006 called A Cold Night, A Cold Winter's Night, I think it's called.
Yeah.
One Cold Winter's Night, and it's in Oslo, and they have a Norwegian opera singer or opera trained singer as their vocalist.
Right.
His name's Roy Khan, and he's just the most amazing frontman, and he's got an incredible voice, and he wrote all the tunes when he was in the band, and the drummer's amazing. He's called Casey Grillo, and the guitarist is called Thomas Youngblood, and it's Matt was probably not expecting me to say this,
No,
but that's
one
of my favorite bands, and another band that I can associate with very much is a band called Breaking Benjamin. Which is a very famous alternative rock band in the US. They're just it's mainly for production reasons. Like the production of the tracks is just so satisfying to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, and of course Giro as well.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite records.
I mean,
giving you quite a broad spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, relating to your rock stuff, I'm a massive Dream Theater fan. So.
So Camelot is like Dream Theater.
Oh, there you go. I'll have to look Camelot up then.
It's just like it, but it's a bit more thematic.
Okay. Yeah.
But both the bands do the same thing, where like the gigs are like, if you watch the gig of One Cold Winter's Night, it's like there's like actors on the stage.
Yeah. Okay.
And they've got like everything going on big screen, like weird sort of scary haunted people. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go check it out.
It's really good. Camelot with a K.
Camelot with a K. All right, definitely. We got another one from it's a Razor Mouth Vids. Do you know who that actually? I don't actually know your name, bud, but I'm going to call you a Razor. So from a Razor, he got two questions going on. So he goes, "Hey Louis," he says, "Have you ever had a problem with aperture clamping down too much, being too small?" Then he followed it up with, "Because as a result, I get way too dark of a sound and can't get enough air through my horn." You got any help for him to release his clamping down situation?
It's difficult to answer. It's difficult to answer questions. This is another honest answer. It's difficult to answer questions
without seeing
when I don't know like what equipment you have, for example.
Yeah.
Like the answer to the question might be the opposite if you play large equipment or small equipment. Let me give you a little rundown. If you play small equipment, it might be that you need to start thinking of trying to get your chops out of the mouthpiece. That's the first thing. If you have large equipment, then it might not be that the aperture is clamping down too much. It might just be that your top lip is being impinged for whatever reason, and that can be from too much pressure. It can be from your tongue being in the wrong place. There are too many variables for me to really kind of like explain without actually seeing the problem, but a brief explanation as to what happens is the aperture is, I don't know whether it's because you're too strong or you're not. Here's a good little analogy for you. You can take away from this live stream eraser. Think of the chops and anything that's happening in here, like inside and all down, this whole system, the whole system from the end of your lips to your core, as being one end of a bike pump, and then the trumpet being one end of a bike pump. Same can be applied to okay, fine. So sorry, brain just working. If both things are not happening at the same time, then you won't get the desired effect of air coming out the end of the bike pump. If you don't exert enough energy on one side of the bike pump and you're only exerting energy on one side, then it won't do anything, and likewise the other way. It sounds to me as though there's a possible lack of equilibrium in what's going on here. So something's not synchronizing up quite right, or it's not calibrated quite correctly. You just mess around a bit. You've probably done this, but you will be able to find a solution. It could also be that you're not exerting enough energy from within to deal with the energy you're exerting either on your face from the trumpet or by clamping down. So it's going to be a case that you either don't clamp down as much and you keep blowing as much as you are, or you have to exert more energy to get through this problem. But it's just very difficult for me to diagnose without actually seeing it. But there's something for everyone anyway.
That's great. Yeah, it's great. I mean, exactly what Louis says. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a lot of places between down here and up here that you can get stoppers and restrictions. Say, next might stop it, your mouth might stop it, you might grunt, and that the way Louis is explaining it, it needs to all just sync up and go straight out. So, great advice. Jim Amaral, do you know him? He's popped in, said, "Love you, Louis." Says my 2-year-old. I brought her plastic trumpet play along with your YouTube video. She absolutely loves it.
That's lovely.
He commented later on, and a lot of people ask me this: who's the dude at the end, death staring you at the end of that video? He shakes his head. Everyone goes, "Why is he death staring?" And I was like, "I don't think he's death staring him. I don't know what it is, but it's just
maybe this is a cultural confusion. It must be said, this is a cultural problem. In the jazz world of the UK or in London, and I know this for a fact because it's one of my best mates, is James Copus.
Yeah. Was that James?
I know that's James.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him. That's insane.
Yeah. So when you're digging something, you shake your head and you frown.
You do a jazz face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The jazz face. So he's just doing a jazz face. Well, I hope. But I remember when he read the first comment on it, and he's like, "Why are these people saying that?" You know? So I think and I hope he's doing a jazz face. If he isn't, then sorry, James, you got caught on camera,
mate. Benny Coxon says, "Do you enjoy doing masterclasses?"
Yes.
You've been doing so. You're a Yamaha artist, aren't you? We'll dive.
I am. Yes.
How long can I have you for tonight? So
as long as you want. The Arsenal game's over and we drew, so it's fine.
Cool. All right. I won't keep you all night, but yeah, there are some questions flying in. So you're a Yamaha artist, which we might dive into a little bit more later. And you play Yamaha trumpet. I mean, you could combine this if you want, but obviously they get you to go around doing masterclasses, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Wicked. Do you want to dive into a little about that and whether you enjoy it? And cool.
Yeah. Masterclasses. It's weird, right? Because the way I am is I'm a very spontaneous person anyway, and I tend to just talk and let my ideas just go out, if you see what I mean. A good clinician is one that can keep the audience interested, engage the audience well, and also give valuable information away. I really enjoy the process of doing a masterclass. I like my audience to be engaged as well. So, questions are really good because when you walk into a room as a clinician, even if the person telling you who's going to be the person who is looking after you and has booked you is telling you who is there, you really have no idea who you're talking to. And you really have no idea what the standard is because everything is relative, right? The person, they could say that these guys are amateur players, but they could be amazingly good. How do I know? Or they could be professionals in a place that doesn't have the best professionals, and I'm speaking to sort of nuanced, if you see what I mean. So it's very different, and then it could be kids. So all of these audiences are different, and you have to kind of gauge it and see what people enjoy. People like to hear you play as well, and playing in a clinic is really sort of uncomfortable and strange because it's just you standing there in front of people, and I use it for demonstration reasons, but I don't tend to play a huge amount. Usually because it's just before a concert and it's like giving it all away then. But these clinics tend to be, like if you fly somewhere and then that evening you go to a clinic, you're sort of frazzled, you've got off a plane, you got in your hotel, you're kind of like, and then you have to speak for 2 hours to people about the trumpet, and you have to keep them engaged and things. So, I don't know, maybe you guys take it away. If you ever do go to a clinic, like 100% guarantee that the guy who's standing up there wants you to be engaged as well.
Yeah.
So bring questions, because they might not answer them for you. And if they ask you any questions, it's usually because they're trying to gauge the room. It's not that they haven't got anything to say. For me, I quite regularly sit there, and I've had to do clinics to primary schools. Now compare that to like sort of semi-professional trumpet players in a smaller, sort of more intimate clinic environment, maybe in a different country where they speak much better English than I speak their language, but maybe there's a slight, you have to deal with these things in very different ways. So engage with the clinician, I would say. I know the question wasn't that, but it is really it's really helpful for us to move the conversation the right way, because I can, like, as you're finding out now, I can talk about this stuff for hours.
Yeah.
And then if I keep rattling off, they get faster and faster and faster, and my ideas will come out. But sometimes I might lose somebody, or I'm not particularly structured when I do these things. But it's cool. I enjoy doing them for sure, and I enjoy doing podcasts like this as well, because it gets me thinking about playing as well.
Yeah,
I don't tend to sit in front of my computer and think about playing the trumpet unless I'm doing something like this.
No, yeah.
So it's good.
That's great. Honestly, be as specific as you can in masterclasses is what I've learned. Because as Louis just said, like myself as well, you can just ravel, and they might actually go round your point and never actually get to your point. So just ask exactly what you want, and hopefully they'll answer it.
Exactly.
Emmanuel F. Trumpeter. I'll just call you Emmanuel. He asked, "Hi, I just wanted to ask if you ever studied at a conservatoire or university, and if you did you think it was worth it?" So
that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I studied at the Royal Academy of Music, in London. I was a strange case when I went there, because I was there on like I used to call it the on the fence course. It's a English.
Because you're classically trained, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, I was classically trained when I was younger, and then I started studying jazz, and then they're very limited spaces on the jazz course at that school. Usually one trumpet a year, and James Copus was in my year, and he's amazing.
Don't fight with that.
And the I was actually considering going to University of North Texas at the time, and my head of jazz at the Purcell School knows the head of jazz and the head of brass, the head of jazz at the Academy, Nick Smart, and then the head of brass, Mark David, at the Academy. They asked whether like they could sort me a course out that was tailor-made, and their reasoning for this was that it seems a bit weird that they might send someone away that maybe was a little different to the conventional trumpet player at my age to another country. Why not take advantage of that person here and try and make that work? So there was a big effort to try and get a course together for me at that school, and I appreciate all of the effort that everyone put into it. When I was there, I was never a particularly well-behaved kid when it came down to things, and particularly that time in my life, I was very, I said it before, very passionate.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very happy when things didn't go, when things weren't like going exactly in as perfectly as I wanted. Just an immaturity thing, like, and everyone deals with these things differently. And while I was there, I had some unbelievable teachers, and it was absolutely amazing. And the big band there was fantastic, and the orchestra, everything I did from a practical point of view at that place was fantastic. Everything. It's an expensive school, or it's no more expensive than anywhere else, but it's expensive to go to school now.
Yeah.
If you're asking me my opinion on the university culture in the UK, I think way less people should be going to university, but that's just my opinion. I think that more people going to university just degrades the quality of the university. I'm not referring to the academy here, but just in general, I just think that like it should really only be for people that are academic and don't try and go there, go and do something else, right? But with regards to music college, if you're paying £9,000 a year, in all honesty, with £36,000 debt at the end of it, is it worth £36,000? It's impossible to answer.
Yeah.
And the reason it's impossible to answer is because it all depends on your situation. In London, like, do you need that? Probably not, because with £36,000 you can get an unbelievable amount of tutorage for that from some of the best musicians in the world. And now more than ever, it's even easier because you can use Zoom for lessons. I know it's not quite the same, but you can. But the difficulty, and for me, fortunately, I had things like Nigel, National Youth Jazz Orchestra, and like other bands I was already working in to experience and get my name around the industry. You can't do that everywhere in the world, and not everyone in London can do it either. So for some people, that it is worth £36,000, definitely. For me, put it this way: in hindsight, I'm glad I went.
Yep.
Do I think do I think for me it was value for money? Maybe, but here's the other thing, and I wish I had. Like it's so dependent on the individual. It's unbelievable. I was so bad in every institution I was at as a learner. I'm one of the most curious people I know. I spend my entire day on YouTube trying to learn stuff. I'm super interested in everything. Trying to build a studio at the moment, doing a lot of it on YouTube, learning from my dad. I DIY my whole house up because I'm actually interested in doing stuff.
Yeah.
But if you put me in a class of 40 people and tell me what I need to learn, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So now more than ever, I wish I could, like, everyone would say this as well. Like, I wish I could have those studying years back now because I'm just so much more interested. But I really feel as though, like, at 18 years old, I just wasn't mature enough to take all of those opportunities. I should have taken more opportunities when I was there because some of the staff and everything was absolutely amazing. But I think that there's I feel as though if I had £36,000 now and I went and I could have, like, I would go have lessons all over the world. I just go fly places and go have lessons with them.
Yeah.
So it's really dependent on the individual. I do not regret going, like, at all. But from a theoretical point of view, I would question it now.
Yep.
I think that's the most politically correct way of putting it. And I am grateful to everyone that made my time at the academy as good as it was. It was really great, and I made so many friends and had some unbelievable teachers. But, like, for value for money, they don't get to decide that. Like, the actual people there don't get to decide it. It's on the university how much. Well, it's actually on the government now how much the course costs. So
yeah.
that's going to be up to you to decide whether or not you think it's worth it. But yeah. Sorry, that was a long-winded question, but it's pretty honest.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, things to use personally for university and colleges is network, because in the end you'll probably be gigging with those people for a lot of your time. So that's the main thing really universities could be used for.
Yes.
For me anyway. There's a couple of questions here that are sort of on a similar vein. Daniel Mueller wants to know where you learnt to edit and mix songs, and Emmanuel
YouTube.
again there you go, YouTube. And then Emmanuel wants to know what microphones you record your trumpets.
So where did I learn to? I did at the Purcell School. I did a music tech A level. Pretty basic in comparison to what I have to do now, but I'm like a hardcore computer guy anyway. I spend my entire life at my giant setup here that you guys can't see, but it's like a spaceship. I should probably start streaming anyway, actually, like streaming video games and stuff, because I think it'd be really fun. I play a lot of those. But that's where I learned. I learned everything on YouTube. I think I got a subscription to Groove 3 at some point, which is like a subscription-based thing to teach you how to mix better. But the problem is that nothing on YouTube really talks about acoustic instruments unless they're the drums.
Yeah.
And the voice.
However, you do your own, don't you? So you're starting to do your own YouTube stuff as well. You stream a few mixing stuff.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I've got a plan, kind of to bring out like a series on how to do it all, but knowing me, the way I like to do things is I'm so conscious of it not being exactly right that I'll probably never get around to doing it. Anyway, it's all trial and error, and trust your ears. Like, and the other thing is, like, just get on with it and do it, because so many people I'm so overwhelmed by the digital audio workstation, for example. I don't know what I'm looking at. What am I clicking at? Right, get on YouTube, watch tutorial series. There are about 1 billion of them for Logic if you want to start with Logic or Reaper. Just learn how to use it, get a basic understanding, and then record 4 trumpet parts.
Yep.
Just record a big band section, put click on and play along to it. You will learn more in that process of recording about not only your own playing, but also about the digital audio workstation than you will if you sit in a practice room for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Honestly, you will learn so much more if you record yourself. I get better at the trumpet when I'm working in my house here, because I sit here and I play into that microphone over there, and I learn so much about my playing when I'm doing that. But I don't learn very much about my playing when I'm going through method books methodically, tiring myself out for no reason. There's not even any reason to do it. So I would really recommend start recording and start small and just go bigger. And if you don't like the sound of something, change it, move the microphone. Get better at the trumpet. Those are the things you can do. But that's great. And then regarding microphone, I use a few. I tend to record everything on 2 mics, particularly for clients. If I'm working for clients, then I use a ribbon microphone and a condenser microphone, so that with the capsules aligned, so there's no phasing problems when they put them together. And then they are welcome to either mute one or the other, or put them in a use them together as a blend.
Yep.
So the ribbon microphone I use is a Coles 4038. Lots of trumpet mics use, and it's considerably darker than the condenser, but it's not a dark ribbon like the Royer is, which I used to use, but I don't like the Royer anymore. And my favorite mic, no, it's not my favorite, but it's the one I use most, is the TLM 170R or TLM 170 Neumann. It's kind of like a U87 that can get hit,
Yeah.
So it's a bit better at accepting high SPL. So I think it's the most versatile trumpet microphone because I think condensers, personally, I just think condensers just sound better for almost everything. But this is a really personal preference thing. I know tons of people that much prefer ribbons. But I just, from a producer's point of view, I want to hear the trumpet like very present, and then I can, like, if you give me all the detail, I'll pick out what I want.
Yeah.
But if you don't give me enough detail, because the microphone you've got is dropping off on the top and cutting all of the high frequencies off, I can't bring it back. Yeah. And I've had problems like this in the past when I've tried to record trumpet sections remotely, and two of the guys are using condensers, and when I get their stems through, they're just clear as day. I can do anything to that sound.
Yeah.
And then like two guys send me ribbons, and I can't extract enough information out of the microphone to enhance it so it sounds as clear and present as the condensers.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to have both options because the ribbon microphone is a beautiful sound. Mm-hmm. If you want like a quick fix to a beautiful trumpet sound, it's great. But if you want, I don't know, I'd never forget recording that Let It Go thing, the first thing we did in 2015. And I was recording it on a Royer because everyone uses a Royer R121. I was so excited, and they are great mics. They are brilliant. It's just not my personal thing anymore. Doesn't sound like me to me. And I'm playing with this R121, and I'm trying to play it. I just sound like I'm in a bathroom. There's loads of 2K. I just don't. It doesn't feel great. Tom Walsh sent me a KM54, which I also have one of now from the mid 50s. That's my favorite microphone. That's the Jerry Hay microphone.
Yeah.
A little pencil mic like this, and I played the same phrase, and it was like
night and day,
just completely ridiculous in comparison. So, if I were you, I would try and find a good it depends on your budget, but I would. Oh, actually, if you want a budget microphone, the best one to pick up for the trumpet, in my personal opinion, is the Bear Dynamic M201. It's a dynamic microphone.
Which is this one. So.
Have you got one?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So.
Yes,
I completely agree with Louis.
It's like a cheap KM54. It's hilarious.
Yeah. But it works well.
They're quite bright, but they for the price, like
if you don't have the money at the process and you want to get started, it's a good mic to get started. Definitely.
Yeah, get it over a 57. Get it over an SM57. I just think it's a bit better than that.
Yeah.
Although the 57 is of course a great microphone.
Yeah. Drill it, funk and hip hop and love. I will get to your question. That's a hell of a name, by the way. However, Jeroen van Koolen, I'm very sorry if I got that wrong. He says, good luck with building the studio and the new house. Stay safe and healthy. But he had a question earlier, which is this one. He said he met you, Louis and Wayne, Rotterdam after trumpet party 2 years ago. And he says, how do you keep motivated when practicing at home in these gigless times? Now, before you answer, Louis, and obviously he might talk about one of these. I don't know how Louis' neighbours are, but Steve Clark was asking how your neighbours are because he says your upper register is like his lower register, bass trombone player. He wanted to know whether you had understanding neighbours. But anyway, this is non-seamless, straight to your ultimate big band toolkit, because someone was saying before you should record yourself and you should play along, as you were saying before, play along with big bands and record yourself doing it. What better thing than what you've just brought out? So, and obviously this could be ends with the same questions. What motivating you practicing at home? You can answer that in a sec, Louis. However, let me just play this promo for what Louis and Cal have coming out.
Hi Louis, how you holding up?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Oh, well, not so great really. This lockdown's really got to me.
Oh yeah? How so?
Well, to be honest, I'm really missing playing in a big band.
In a big band?
Yeah, in a big band.
Me too. Wouldn't it be great if there was just a convenient way to play in a big band from the comfort of your own home?
A convenient way to play in a big band from the comfort of your own home?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Louis and Cal's Ultimate Big Band Toolkit.
Louis and Cal's Ultimate Big Band Toolkit?
Louis and Cal's Ultimate Big Band Toolkit! Looks like this is exactly what we're after. A super simple, convenient way to practice all styles of big band music from the comfort of our own homes.
Right, I'm picking up my copy now.
Hang on a sec though, I play the trombone. Is there one for me as well?
Yeah, there's a different book for each big band instrument: trumpet, trombone, saxophone, drums, bass, guitar, and piano.
Brilliant. I'll get all my friends to pick up a copy too.
So I guess you just open the book, pick your tune, crank up the speakers, and play along, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm really struggling with this phrase in Well Endowed.
Yeah, same.
Aha! It turns out it's not only a play-along book. They also have some world-class tutors with some super in-depth guides to help us get through it.
Man, this is so great. Whoever came up with this must be
A genius.
Anyway, should we play one of these tunes together?
Yeah, go on then.
Join our community of big band musicians from around the world, all playing music from the Ultimate Big Band Toolkit.
Pick up your copy today for just £19.99. We can't wait to hear from you all.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, is there Louis and Cal's new venture, and it's epic. As you might have seen in that little end clip, I was lucky enough to be one of the ones chosen to play along for some of the promo stuff, and it was an absolute pleasure. And I've got the book.
Thank you for doing that, Ben.
You're more than welcome. It's a great idea. I've already dived into some of them, and they're not easy. Some of them, let me tell you that they're great. It's good. And you feel like you're part of the band, and that's what it is. Chuck your headphones on, chuck the bands on, and it's a great concept, and I think everyone should have one. And as you said, it's not only just for trumpets, it's for trumpet, trombone, saxophone, drums, bass, guitar, and piano. So honestly, get them out. Do you want to just say a few words on it, Louis?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's cool. It's been a project we've been doing for about 3 years now. And to be honest, I'm glad it's out. It's really cool. I think, yeah, it is a lot of it is hard, but there is something in there for everyone, and it's the reason we made it what it is. It's kind of similar standard to what we grew up playing.
Mm-hmm.
I kept telling Callan this. I was like, well, you know, it's complex, but the beauty of it is that if you can play that book, then properly, then you're of a standard that is worthy of professional standard, if you see what I mean. So there is there's certainly progression. There are some tunes that are easier than others. All of the tracks have been recorded by a really great band.
Mm-hmm.
They were recorded a few years ago now, and the tutors in it are absolutely excellent. So there's certainly a couple of gems in there, and yeah, I think the other thing about it as well that I like, and that I wish I had when I was a kid, was that there are all of the short guides and stuff like that are in there. They're all things that we feel are very practical about being a big band musician. I know it's not everything in there. If you can relate to all of it, and you understand the short guide stuff, and you get your articulations right, and you want to learn more about sight reading, it's all in there, and it kind of cuts out all of the rubbish. It's really the most important stuff. So that was some of that stuff was really fun to write. Really like sitting down and really thinking, like, what do I want in my section player?
Yeah.
And that's a question that I think more people should ask. They don't tend to.
Yeah.
But it's actually a valuable question with a valuable answer. So all of those sorts of answers are in there. But it's been great. I'm really happy that it's out.
Comes along with an album as well, doesn't it? You get the whole album.
You get a free album, the album On Stage, which is us guys playing.
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
The toolkit.
Yeah, it's great.
It's cool. I always forget that there's an album associated with it, because during the mixing process it was all done kind of at the same time. But
yeah. I did enjoy this as well. Hang on, let me get rid of this one. I did enjoy this. Your little notes. It was great. That's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's your little note from Louis and Cal. And to be fair, it's great. It actually makes it feel. Let me bring myself back here somewhere. There we go. Yeah, it makes it feel personal in a way, even though you've made it on a broad spectrum. It still feels personal the way you've done it, and it's a great idea. I recommend everyone get one. Shout yourself an early Christmas present.
Thank you, Ben.
Right, we've had a few questions here, mate. Let me just see where I'm at. So Steve Bland,
Yeah.
has come on and says, "Great to hear you both chatting, Louis. Was the big band gig you did in London just before lockdown recorded? And as it would be awesome to hear it again."
Hey, Steve, how you doing? No.
That's the game.
That was like that. We'll refer to that as the COVID gig.
Yeah, because it was just after that in lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's like 2 days after.
Yeah.
But it was. I loved that gig. That was really fun. It's the first time we played Into the Unknown as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how good this chart was going to be. We played it, and I was standing at the front just laughing.
It's great.
I got to do it with Lawrence Gottle and Ian Thomas, the drummer. So it was pretty amazing. But no is the answer.
No. We had a question from JMC Music Boy. Is it good for your embouchure if you play multiple instruments, like playing French horn, trumpet, and trombone? I'm guessing like James Morrison would be the case. But just a heads up on James Morrison, I have worked with him before. He has what we call flexi chops. Well, I call it flexi chops. It's not actually a form, but I've never seen James's lips swell up or anything. He just is able to pick it up and he plays it. It's just another instrument for him. So try not to compare yourself with someone like James Morrison if you're doing it. But Louis, what's your thoughts on playing multiple instruments?
I mean, one thing that I did pick up on James Morrison that he said once, and probably many times actually, on a clinic was, if you want to pursue that, cool.
Yeah.
I don't like the French horn. No. I love the French horn, but I wouldn't necessarily think to go and pick it up and learn it. But some people want to. Same with the trombone. I just want to keep playing the trumpet and do it as best I can. Now, what James Morrison said about playing the trumpet and the trombone and being able to switch in between them, which is I thought fascinating, was the fact that, I mean, it's obvious, right? But you don't think about it. If you do 1 hour's work on the trumpet and then 1 hour's work on the trombone, you've done 2 hours total practice, but you've practiced switching between them once. If you do 1 minute on the trumpet, then 1 minute on the trombone, then 1 minute on the trumpet for a total of 2 hours, you'll have done the same amount of practice on both instruments, but you've practiced the change 120 times or 60 times, whatever the mass is. So there's your answer. Practice the change. Yeah. Do I think it's good for your embouchure? No comment really, because if you play those three instruments, your embouchure is set to play those three instruments. Mm-hmm. So like you're asking a trumpet player whether or not I would basically asking me whether I think I would benefit from playing the French horn and the trombone. Mm-hmm. And in the short term, it'll be an absolute catastrophe.
Yeah.
But could I train my chops to do it? Yeah, you can train your body to do pretty much anything within your athletic ability. So if you want to do that, do it. I don't see any harm to it, just as long as you're aware that. I know for me, if I get stuck in a set for too long, I struggle with going high. For example, if I set too low, then I struggle to go high. So the same thing will be if you play the French horn for too long, your trombone chops are going to be rubbish. So you need to practice getting the change good.
Yeah.
If you want to be able to play all three, because if I put the trombone to my face, it's just the weirdest sensation ever.
Yeah.
And then what's even weirder? After you've been playing the trombone for 10 minutes, try putting your trumpet mouthpiece on your face. So suddenly the trumpet feels like, it's really weird.
So it's like your lips are going around the mouthpiece. It's like, how's that working?
exactly. There's the non-answer to a question. Another
Yeah.
one.
It's
my
good.
non-committal response.
If you want to hear an incredible album, when James Morrison was concentrating on the trumpet as well, look up Sydney by Night. That is an incredible album, and
I'll have to check that out.
yeah, he did he was spending a lot of time on the trumpet. There is some trombone on there as well, but I know he wanted to work on the trumpet charts on that, and I've been trying to find the music of that CD for a long time. It's a great album. Al King has come on. Nice to see you, bud. He says, does it involve any improvisation? I'm guessing that's talking about the Big Band Toolkit, and yes, Al, it involves quite a lot of improvisation. Well, the trumpet part does anyway.
It must be stated, though, of course, that every track when you buy it, you get the trumpet part, which has but you'll get 2 MP3s. So for every part you get 2 MP3s. One is with example solos, so the solos from the album on stage, and then one is without.
Yeah.
So you can choose to play it like a lead trumpet player where there are no solos, or you can put the solo, like there'll be no solo in there at all, and you can just play along.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you've even included some transcriptions of the solos in the back of as well.
Oh yeah, and I think all of the trumpet solos are transcribed in the book.
Yeah, they are in the trumpet book. Anyway, I don't know about the other books. Yeah. It's great. It really is good, Al. Thanks for the good question. We've got a question from George Hurst here, which is great. Nice to see you, George. Thanks for joining. It says, hi guys, what's your daily routine and how do you keep on top of your playing?
I don't have a routine. For me, the trumpet feels different every day, so I change my routine accordingly. I tend to pick the trumpet up and just play it, to be honest with you. My default is like a warm-up of about 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe. That's the default, and the default only applies when the trumpet feels good. Yep. If the trumpet doesn't feel good, then it will require more work.
Can we go into a little bit of process of this? So I was going to bring this up later on, but time is ticking on because it's so easy to talk to you, and I don't want to keep you all night. Obviously, here it is where it is. There we go. Look, here's the guys, Abbey Road Studios. He's doing a lot of sessions. That was a good photo. They're all on GR mouthpieces. So, Louis, you had a session today, like you told me. You do a lot of different kind of gigs. Now, in a process of, I'm guessing it's going to be, if you're on the lead chair, it's a different warm-up to if you're just playing a section player or vice versa. Now, I heard a little rumor on the side that it's probably not even a rumor, it's just because I didn't figure it out, that you were on No Time to Die, the James Bond film. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Well done. Congratulations. It's amazing. I'm guessing you're on with Mike Lovatt because I talked to him earlier this year about doing that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike,
so,
Tom.
Yeah.
Tom.
Oh, really amazing.
And Crowley. Yeah.
Oh, section galore. Love it. So when you're when you're approaching a session like that, or when you're approaching a different kind of thing, is there a different warm up that you take, or is it just literally how the chops feel? Like you play through it and go, okay, yep, chops feel, I can do that. Okay, the register's there. Yeah, cool. Is that it, or do you do the same thing regardless of what you're doing?
I definitely don't do the same thing regardless of what I'm doing. There's a set of diagnostics that must be met to proceed through the day. So if I can play a top F, like in lead trumpet mode, if I can play a top F very comfortably with very little effort and energy, and I can feel the note is sitting where I want it. It's impossible for me to explain, but from where I am, if it feels right, then I'm pretty much set. Of course, I'm going to do some lip bends and things like that just to find the middle of the notes, and I'll tend to do a little bit of flexibility just to make sure that I'm not stiff.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's kind of it. If I'm playing classically, I usually have to set up a bit more in advance. I tend to try and set up as much in advance as I can anyway. If I know that like a very different style of music is coming up the next day, then I'll get the bigger mouthpiece out and I'll spend more time like getting to grips with the different articulation and production that is required. And also, you know what the other thing is? As a lead trumpet player, we don't ever double tongue, ever.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
you have to be able to double tongue. So I have to work a lot on my K tongue when I know something like that's coming up. So one of my warm-ups could actually be a bit of double tonguing. Sounds ridiculous, but it's actually really important because, you know, if you have to go in unison with the guys, dun, you know, you can't be falling over your tongue.
Yeah.
They're going to nail it.
Yeah.
You've got to also be the same. So, the routine's totally different because I consider it basically a different instrument.
Cool.
I think it's that different.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important that your routine is what it needs to be and no more.
Agreed. And it's something to be said about finding out what kind of chops that you have that day. As we said, it's different every day.
Yeah, so, I mean, this might not be good advice, right? But I'm going to say it anyway because it's what I do. And I said at the beginning of this stream that I would be completely honest. My microphone is set up over there all the time. And when something comes in to record and I get the files, I put them into Reaper or whatever DAW I'm going to use. I pick my trumpet up and the first notes I play that day will be recorded. I don't do anything like, and if it's really bad, I just like stop the recording and just get it to go in and then just go again.
Yeah.
There's not like this 45-minute ritual I need to do before I start. I don't have enough time.
And time wasting.
So, yeah, kind of. And the thing is, some people need to do that, and some people really benefit from it. So people ask me about routine and warm-up so much, and it's a question I asked when I was a kid so much as well, and I wish I hadn't wasted so much time talking about it. Just get on with it. Pick the trumpet up, try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, think about it. Then you need to think about it. But if you don't need to think about it, don't overthink it. Just get on with it, because you'll end up wasting chops on messing around trying to, you know, routine yourself into shape. But this is not the same for everyone. You know, everyone's different.
Of course, it's like when I was chatting with Rex, and we both agreed that sometimes when you pick it up and it just isn't working, just put it down for 20 minutes, go make a cup of tea, and come back, and then probably just work then.
That is the best warm up, or go get a bacon sarnie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just walk away.
That's one thing I definitely do on every session. Is I always arrive an hour early.
Yeah.
And I get the trumpet out and I play a few notes and I just see where I'm at.
Yeah. And then go relax.
Then I'll diagnose any potential problems, sort them out. Even if it's not feeling great, then I know that if I go get coffee, come back, and I'm like, that's all I needed to do, and now I'm sort of at origin.
There's something to be said about overthinking, and that could be what happens when you walk away. You just literally switch off. So. Also,
and this is maybe a hilariously overly honest thing to say as well, but I don't do a lot of teaching. But when I do, it doesn't tend to be like a regular, like a weekly lessons thing.
No, I don't do
and
that.
But what I have noticed about teaching is that I could sit there in an hour and tell someone a lot about what they need to do, or at least a lot about what my concept is about the instrument. Mm-hmm. They probably go away from it thinking a few different things. But if I was teaching that person every single week, after a while, like, I'd have to be coming up with things to tell them.
Yeah.
And this is why I think the routine and warm-up is such a big part of everyone's day-to-day, is because if a teacher is teaching someone every single week, it's easy to talk about warm-up for half of the lesson. Because if the warm-up takes half an hour and you haven't warmed up, and they tell you it takes half an hour, then they're just going to spend half of the lesson warming up with you. It's a complete waste of time.
Yeah, definitely.
But I almost don't blame teachers for doing it, because they don't, like, unless like you're going through the grades, like it must be really difficult to teach someone every week. Like it's a hard thing to do. My mum's a music teacher, always has been, you know, like that progression thing, like keep people sort of getting better all the time, not letting it get boring. The warm up, that should only take 5 minutes in the lesson, if that. You should already be warmed up before the lesson.
Well, exactly, yeah. There are other ways you can warm up your chops. I mean, have you seen Roger Ingram's latest YouTube vid on warming up his cheeks? I want to walk into that school or that that section when they're all doing that warm up. I think that'd be brilliant. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It is real. It is a warm up. It's not a joke. Some people did think it was a joke. It's not a joke. It is to warm up the cheek muscles. So, but anyway, if you don't know what I mean, just look it up on YouTube.
Warm up, just play LOL. That's exactly right, Andy.
Oh, you've seen that one as well? Yeah, bro. I was going to dive just quickly after that, as you said that with Mike Opler, I think that could be the way it's said, is do you also listen to classical music? If yes, how big is the influence in your playing?
Yes, I do. Not day to day. Listening to classical music is a really funny thing, because slightly going off topic here, but it's definitely something to consider. I think if you want to be a classical musician, you have to really love classical music. And the reason I say that, my wife's an opera singer, and all day, every day, I go downstairs and she's learning music for the next recital or learning something, and she listens to opera all day, and she loves it. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of classical musicians that I know that don't listen to classical music, and they just sort of play their instrument, and they're very good at playing their instrument, and they might even be really good at classical music, but I don't think it's. I don't think that it's something that I always say to people, you have to have your concept down.
Yeah.
And if you haven't experienced enough of the music that you're trying to play, then your concept is not going to be strong enough. And if you don't love classical music, love it, then you will struggle to make that concept. And the other thing is maintain that concept through a career. It might be all right to go through the progression, as I was saying, and then you get to a point where you're good, and then you're about to hit the industry, and then you play, and you kind of find yourself in that point in the industry, and you sort of sit there and you do, I don't know, maybe do the family thing or something like that. That's great, but if you want to be a serious classical musician, you have to be a serious lover of classical music.
Yep.
And it's no different to any other art form. But you can't be good at something if you're not interested in it. No. I just don't. Oh no, hang on, that's not true. You can be good at something. Can you be elite at it? I just don't understand how you would get to that stage without having already been super interested. So, of course, going to be people that don't sit with that, but I do believe that. Do I listen to classical music every day, other than my wife's opera, which I have to listen to? No.
He doesn't mean
do I love classical music when I'm listening to it? Yes. But is it the first thing I search for on YouTube? No.
Agreed. And there's something to be said about you could pick things up from listening to it occasionally, let alone listening to it all the time. But as you said, if you want to be especially if you're a trumpet player, look, let's put it this way. If you're a trumpet player and you want to do solos at the front of a band, or if you want to sit in an orchestra, learn either the accompaniment or learn the part, as in learn the whole music. The greatest thing about trumpet soloists is that you're standing at the front and you know exactly what the accompanist is doing. And when it comes to an orchestra, when you got those 172 bars off, you don't want to be counting 172 bars. You want to know exactly when your part's coming in and how it's meant to be played.
Yeah, that's a very nice way of putting it. Yeah.
And your chops also need to be ready to go. So, and that's where one of these might come in handy. So you might want to get one of them. So my hat's off to a lot of classical people, because some of the guys some of the things they have to do, and they've sat there getting cold for the last 20 minutes is insane. But hats off.
There's more of a sort of argument to warming up as well, or not so much of, if you can't pick the trumpet up and play it, then
good luck.
Exactly.
We have someone. I might have missed a question here. How do you prove? Daniel Mueller, which was the next one. Sorry, he says, how do you improve your sound, and how do you implement the sound that you have in your head?
How do you improve your sound And how do you implement the sound that you have in your head? Well, sound in your head is concept, which you get from listening and absorbing by osmosis. Actually, it's a combination of osmosis and of being incredibly anal and detailed in your analysis. So you need to listen to things. You need to get excited by things. You need to also not like things.
Yeah.
It's also just as important to know what you don't like, so you don't do it. But you have to just expose yourself to tons and tons and tons of stuff. There's no. That's the one thing in the trumpet. Well, not the only thing, but like the biggest thing is that you cannot shortcut is concept, and that's really the heart, like the most time-consuming thing. And you can get a lot of it by just being, sat on YouTube the whole time. You can get an unbelievable amount from that. This kind of goes back to what we were saying right at the start. But yeah, I 100% suggest that. And then how do you improve your sound? Through messing around with variables and implementing your concept.
Yeah.
If you another thing to do to help as a tool to help improve your sound is to record yourself. Other than that, if your sound is bad, it's probably because you aren't being detailed enough in your analysis of what is wrong with the sound. Don't wait for someone to tell you what's wrong with the sound. If there's too much air in your sound, then you have to figure out why that's happening. Now, a teacher can explain to you, like, give you some options to try and improve it, like ideas and variables to change, but it's going to be down to you to figure out exactly what it is in your system that isn't connecting to your concept. You've got to hear that sound in your head that you want to be, and then you have to get there. And don't settle for anything other than what your concept is.
Agreed.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah, that's a great answer. If you were lucky enough to catch the, I was lucky enough to be involved in it. Over at Prozone Music, we had a little bit of a trumpet chat between Will Watson, myself, Louis, and Wayne Bergeron, and that was one of my big things I brought up. And Louis, can you just touch on the one you brought up, which is overuse of air? It's something that I think is, don't go too in depth on it. Just sort of touch on it, and it's something that a lot of people will find that they do overuse it, and in the end, that returns bad sound, bad playing, all that kind of stuff because of it.
It's basically air is overrated. It's not to suggest it's not important. It's just overrated. We should be playing with as little air as is required to make the sound necessary. It's called bang for your buck. It's called efficiency.
Yeah.
You can't make. James Morrison puts this really well as well. You can't make your lips vibrate without the air.
Yeah. But
you don't need very much air at all to get your lips to start vibrating.
Yeah.
Basically nothing. Just even the smallest amount, your lips can vibrate if you're playing correctly and you have the chops set up right. Basically, create a good environment here for the air, and the air will do what it needs to do. It doesn't have to do anything more. It doesn't have to do anything less.
Yep.
But people think that the sound is made by the air. It's not. The sound is a byproduct. Like, the sound is your lips vibrating.
Yep.
And the only way to get them to vibrate is to put air over them. You can't. You can't just do something with your lips and they'll vibrate. So, but that being said, it's the most important thing is that you use as little air as is required. Otherwise, you're wasting energy. So it's all about efficiency, and you have to figure that out. If your sound is airy, it's one of two things. You're using too much air to create the note. It's probably not that. It's probably actually, it could be a third thing. It could be that your equipment is incorrect match for you. And it could also be that, which is probably most likely what it is that the environment that you're giving the air to work is not efficiently set up correctly.
Yep.
So your bottom lip might need to move out by 1 millimeter. And then suddenly the air, and then if you back off the air, do you still get that thing? The best thing that anyone can do for their trumpet playing is to do very quiet production. I promise. It's the best thing anyone can do, because if you can make a note and a sound out of nothing, then that will translate to rest of your playing.
Yeah.
You don't. If every single time you try and play a quiet note, there's loads of air in the sound. Just think about how much wasted energy there is on the quiet note. Think about how much wasted energy there's going to be in the loud note.
Yeah.
You've got to, at all volumes and at all ranges, you have to be able to play every single note at every single volume, and with a good production. Practice them with breath attacks. It's the best way to improve your sound.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And as Wayne and yourself have said, how much air can you actually fit down that? You know, like it's just take it easy. And honestly, if you can play something quiet, you can play something louder, because all it is just adding a little bit more air. So learn to play it quiet first. We've had a few questions, but that leads us on to someone asked about your equipment, and you just mentioned about it could be the wrong equipment. So he asked, he raises back again, and he says, have you played either the Wayne Bergeron Yamaha trumpet or the Bobby Shoe Yamaha trumpet, and what do you like and dislike about them? His name's Cameron. Sorry, Razor.
Hey, Cameron.
Hey, Cameron. How you doing, bud? So
I play the Bergeron trumpet right now.
Yep.
And I used to play it a long time ago as well. And I also have a shoe as well. That's just somewhere in my house. I have both trumpets. I love both of them.
Yep. I mean,
they're quite similar.
Look at these two. They're cut from the same thing. You know, look at their same hair, same everything. So
yeah, exactly.
But you've also got these great things, haven't you? You got these made up.
Yes, they're great.
So you want to tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, this is a whole podcast in itself. But
well, let's not.
Yeah,
we'll have to do another podcast for that.
Yeah, they're like the Bergeron, but a little bit more conventional.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
We roll back some of the slightly more drastic things on Wayne's mouthpiece.
I have a true geekazoid thing going on here. If anyone wants to know sizes, there you go. There's true geekazoids.
Their size is 0.63 inches. Actually, I think it's a 0.631 inch. That's taken right from my website, but for the sake of argument, it's 0.63 inches. But yeah, it's great. It's got a flat rim, so it's very comfortable. I mean, I could go into this for ages, but you just got to try them. I mean, not that it's even easy to do that at the moment, because I can't even get hold of them.
Yeah.
But they're amazing. If you guys want to try them, then just get in touch. I'll put it on the waiting list.
From what I know as well is when you get mouthpieces in, you spam your social media, don't you? So people do.
I spam them just because I want to get rid of them as fast as possible. So, yeah.
There you go. And they are.
I usually get them in batches of 20 or so, and they go in about a day.
So honestly, guys, if you see them advertising them, get in quick, or else they will be gone. And Louis is the only person you can get them through.
If you're in Europe. If you're outside of Europe, then you can buy them direct from GR, and he'll make you one up. So
there you go.
Europeans, sorry, that's a bit sad. However, post-Brexit, it might be, I don't know this yet, but it might be the case that Europeans will also be able to buy them from GR. Don't know, though. I need to check that. And it'll be me selling just to the Brits. So,
great. Guys, if I've missed any of your questions, always go on to Louis' social media, because he goes on himself and he goes on Instagram sometimes, does his own playing. And if you need something answered and I've missed it, I do apologize. But as you can tell, Louis is very happy to answer some stuff. I just want to quickly dive into your album, High Score. That you've still got some stuff in there, and obviously your relationship with Callum, and obviously your musical production. Really, you've come leaps and bounds, and your relationship with Callum has come leaps and bounds, and the stuff you're producing, especially the recording you did on Songs and Stories, in my opinion, should have been Grammy Award winning. But I know the Times put it as one of the best albums of 2020, which is rightfully so. But honestly, it is award-winning playing, recording, and producing. To be honest with you, I can't rate it.
Thank you very much.
So just Do you want to dive real quick into a little bit of your relationship? Someone did say here as well, how important do you think transcribing is to learn improvisation? Maybe you could tie that in there somewhere, because obviously Callum.
Yeah, I'll start with that one.
Okay.
Transcription. I think everyone learns differently, right? But I think it's just a little tip here: don't write the transcription down. You almost lose all of. I haven't done a huge amount of transcribing on the trumpet myself, really. I should do more. I actually quite enjoy the process, but I find it time consuming. You know what I find most interesting about transcription is that it really highlights that thing with the human brain where if you do something and you keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again, you'll eventually get worse at it in a weird way, and then you leave for 5 minutes, and then you come back and you play it perfectly. It's unbelievable what your brain can do. And the other thing is, I've done transcriptions I was at college years ago, and I still remember them note for note.
Yeah.
Because the brain just
it retains it. Yeah.
It's unbelievable what it can do. And that only happens because I don't write it down. Don't write it down. If you sit at your computer transcribing and write it all down and then play it and learn it by memory, that completely is the opposite to what you want to do. What you really need to do is you need to listen to what it is, you need to get your horn, and you need to play along with it and try and get all the inflections exactly the same, because this is only going to help your concept. Keep going through, like, phrase at a time, learn it, then go back to the beginning, then do 2 phrases, then go back to the beginning, do 3 phrases, and let it all run in, and then take a break. Come back, see if you've retained the information. If you have, good, because what that means is it's internalized, and then the whole point of doing the transcription is that it makes that into your playing. Yeah. And if you do it the other way around and you write it down, and then you try and learn it from a written point of view, you'll learn it too quickly. You won't learn it as in-depthly. So that's vital that you do that, if you think the same way I do, which is, I think most humans probably do that. Anyway, high score, cool, yeah. I really enjoyed making that album. Accident that we made it, didn't even mean to, but turns out that we had 10 YouTube videos, and that makes enough for an album. So it's cool. Some of it got remixed because I was a bit better at mixing when I redid it, but then again, some of the material was still, for me anyway, Do
you have some left?
Some
CDs?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, the classic thing that happened, of course, it does. You order the first 2,000, and then they all go really quickly, and then you order another 2,000, and then no one buys any of them. So I've just got crap loads of CDs just down here by my computer.
Honestly, guys, you need this CD, so buy it.
Yeah, it's funny. So yes, but it's been great, and Callum's obviously amazing.
I mean, obviously you're rebuilding a studio in your backyard at the moment, aren't you? Are you is the plan to continue? Obviously, you use for bigger orchestras, you use bigger venues, but is the plan to do majority of your recording work in the backyard then? Have I just
read a comment there that was interesting. I'll respond to that in a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
So the studio is smaller than my old one because the old one was a bit bigger and it cost me money per month. I wanted to be a bit more efficient with how I spent money. I think the world is changing a bit, and I think that I don't need to have as many people in my studio anymore.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yep.
So it's more for me. It's going to be more of a project studio for me, where I can actually go somewhere to work. I'm also going to set my kit up in there.
Oh, great!
And I'm going to learn. I'm going to get my drumming back to a standard that was acceptable, because for me, I was more of a drummer than I was a trumpet player for a very long time, and I love playing drums so much, and I don't do it anymore because I haven't had a space to do it. So I'm going to set my kit up. I'm going to make it sound amazing. I'm going to put the mics on it, and I'm going to just get in there, and I'm just going to. So I'm really excited about that, and so I'll be able to have drummers over. I'll be able to have rhythm sections over, and then I think I'll just record horns remote. The next album, which is in the works, I don't know how. We still don't know how we're going to record it, which is why we haven't started. But we're trying to see how COVID goes. I don't really. Whatever I do with it, I want to do the same way. I don't want to do half the album remote and half the album in my studio.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be sounding a bit more consistent than some of the older stuff I've done. Some of the older stuff I've done, it's been in different rooms, it's been with different personnel. I want to do this next album, I just want to do it in one bash. I'll choose different personnel, but only for musical reasons, not because of like availability or anything like that. I may do the whole thing remote and just even as an experiment.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe I'll record the album twice, once remote, once in a studio. And see what, that would be really. I honestly think that would be. Oh, I haven't even thought of that. Maybe that's a really good idea. Maybe I spend 2 days in the studio, and I mix both of them, and I make a little bit of a have a discussion as to.
It'd be interesting to see which one mixes better and works better.
I think it'd be. Oh, actually, that's quite a really interesting idea.
It's a lot of work, but a really interesting idea.
Yeah, well, I think it would answer a question that maybe a lot of people have at the moment, which is remote
easier?
recording viable?
Yeah.
Does it sound good enough? So maybe
try
maybe
it
do
out
it with one track. I could do it with one track. That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
go to the studio together and we'll do one track. Cool.
I'm guessing it's Jeroen's question that you were going to answer when he says when
learning transcribe solos, your brain learns but your ears won't. Maybe he can I don't know what that means. Maybe you can explain a little bit more. I read it and I thought that he was suggesting when learning transcribe solos, your brain learns but your ears won't. Well, I don't know. I think your ears learn. I think you get more concept, but maybe he'll help us out a little more.
I think learning the way you were saying helps your ears learn where the chordal progression's going and why that person actually was meaning to say in their solo. Learning the way you explained, learning it by literally listening and playing means to me that you can recall it in your own solos if you ever hear the same chords.
It has to be internalized. Exactly.
I mean, answering Andrew David's one, which is brilliant. I've been doing it wrong. Technically, mate, you might not be doing it wrong. There are people out there that are visual learners, so maybe you don't actually audio learn, you actually visually learn. Maybe that's something you do, but how about you try it the other way? Give that a go. You might actually retain it a lot more. There are different ways of learning. I do know that. I'm a codal person. People spout numbers at me and stuff like that, but if I actually see the pattern going, I can relate probably a good 8-digit code based on a pattern rather than actual numbers. I won't remember the numbers, but I'll know the pattern that it goes in. So there's just different ways of learning. So just experiment. Like Louis said it multiple times. If you watch Wayne and some of the stuff he says, learning music is a discovery. Make sure you do it. Make sure you change, experiment here, experiment in the way you learn, experiment in the things you do.
Here we go. When I was studying at the conservatory, I found that playing too much transcribed solos was more of a memory training than benefiting your musical development and learning where the notes connect. No, it is a memory training system, but it's doing more than that because you've never played any of those notes in that order before. So the reason that we transcribe solos is to increase our palette of ideas and learn the language. And you can't learn the language. It's far better to start playing them by ear and try to master them. And I 100% agree with that. I think maybe I'm not explaining myself. When I refer to transcribing solos, I'm not referring to necessarily writing them down. I'm referring to them learning them by playing them. So it's a really important process if you want to learn the language of jazz or anything. No, it's cool, man. Sorry, I probably wasn't being clear enough. I think we were both saying the same thing, but it's most important that you learn the language, and the language, by the way, can be heavy metal. It can be anything. And the importance of this is that when you look at musicians that don't read music, they tend to be unbelievably good with their ears because they've learned that way, and they have learned every single pop song and function song you can imagine, and they retain an unbelievable amount of chord progressions in their mind, but because they've actually just sat down and learned them all. They haven't read them off a piece of music and then had to try and memorize them that way. They've internalized it in a much more. It's just a much better way for your brain to take the information in, and it will be, your brain will be able to access it way better if you do it that way. So yeah, take them down. It'll take ages, but you will get faster at it. And the reason you get faster at it is because what you'll start realizing as you do it is that you learn the language, and then the language becomes a part of your vocabulary. And then when you play the solo, let's say it's a bebop solo, and you're learning one from one trumpet player, like Clifford Brown, and then you go to Woody Shaw, there'll be some things that are the same in the language. They'll play it very slightly differently, but the language will be the same. So it won't take you as long to learn that phrase because you already have it down. So the more you transcribe, the faster you get at it. And basically it's like learning your first few words takes ages, and then the more of the words you learn, you start learning the rules.
Yeah.
Like once you start learning the letters and you put them all together, then it all starts to make sense. It's no different with transcription. Just do it that way round. Learn it audio-wise, audiologically, whatever the word is.
I didn't try to say that one earlier. I was like, I'm not gonna get into that now. Jeroen, I hope that's your name, the way you say it. I hope that answers your question. It's a great question. Yeah, and in the end, you'll never stop learning. So always keep playing, and keep transcribing and keep listening. And I mean, it's amazing what these things will do as well between your brain and here. The amount of times I've literally sat there and gone, I don't know what it is, and someone will go, your first note's E, and I'm like, all right, let's go for it. And the fingers and brain just do it, and I'm like, I'm just along for the ride sometimes, and I'm like, okay, but it's because I've done that hard work before, learning and with my ears, that it's that way. Oh, here we go. Al Kings, did you see that one? He just says, I wouldn't mind hearing a duet album with your wife singing and you on trumpet of opportunities.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. Maybe you can play drums on that one as well. That'd be quite good. Do a bit of Mike Portnoy or something. It'd be quite a good opera. I like that. Rock at the Opera. There you go.
Exactly.
I know that'd be great. Right, Louis. I'm not going to keep you much longer, mate. I've taken a couple of hours of your time, and I could literally talk to you all night. So what I'll do is I'll get you back next year, which I'm trying to do with a lot of my guys sometime, and hopefully things will be completely different. And I wish you all the best. Congratulations on the house.
Thank you. And
that's a fun thing to keep track of what's going on. I can't highly suggest everyone more to go check out if you haven't, where have you been living? Go check out Louis' social media. Go check out his YouTube, his Instagram, his Facebooks. He's got it all going, and he pops on every now and then when he's doing some stuff. Honestly, pick his brain while you got him. Better yet, if you go onto the YouTube site where this is being held, there is a link in the description to Louis to get lessons. Just click on that link and hit him up. I'm sure he'll find some time. You guys can work around. Oh, Brian Davis has come in. He says, cheers, chaps. It's been very interesting.
Hey, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for coming, mate. Louis, just get onto his stuff. Check out his website. Get onto the Ultimate Big Band Toolkit. That's all on his website. If you can't find it on his website, it's on Callum Owl's website as well. They may be spamming their social media soon with to keep it going until Chrissy anyway. But Louis, I can't thank you enough, mate. I hope everyone's got stuff out of this. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. For everyone out there, this is the last one for the year, so I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. All stay safe out there, because I want to hear you guys come back in 2021 using all these concepts that Louis just told you, and everyone's popping out of the woodwork on YouTube playing monstrous charts. It's going to be great.
Yes,
do. And good luck with it, mate. I look forward to seeing what you got in the future. And
thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
And we'll catch up next year, and hopefully is a better year. For everyone else out there, stay in the practice room. I love your work. See you later.
Merry Christmas.